I like to bake sweet treats, especially at this time of the year. In fact, every December I host a cookie exchange for the ladies in my neighborhood. Certainly not every woman likes to work in the kitchen, but I do think that more of us like to bake around the holidays. Baking is the kind of activity that requires a lot of measurements. Often you have to be precise. For example, there is a big difference between a teaspoon of salt and a tablespoon of salt. Other times, you can just eyeball it. That means you can estimate how much is needed. Measurements help us quantify things. I know that you know quantifiers like many, much, a few. These words go before a noun to express how many or how much. In this lesson, we'll go over conversational words and phrases that help us express a number or an amount that's not exact. We'll call them quantifying expressions because we don't always place them before a noun like a regular quantifier, but they still help us quantify things. Do you use a lot of salt? Some people season foods with a pinch of salt. And how much is a pinch? Well, it might be a quarter of a teaspoon, more or less. We use more or less right after some kind of measurement to mean we're not being exact. Here are some more examples. Her new apartment is 1,000 square feet, more or less. It's not that big. They lived in Florida for 20 years, more or less. A similar expression is give or take. It means approximately. It implies I may be off by just a little. We often add a number or an amount after this expression. Look at these examples. Her grandfather is probably 80, give or take a few years. Let the stew simmer for an hour, give or take a few minutes. There were about 30 people there, give or take a few. Sometimes you need to guess a number, but you're certain it couldn't be any less than your estimate. That's when we use good plus a quantity. It may sound strange at first, but start listening and you'll hear people say things like this. I must have waited there for a good 20 minutes. I listened to several songs. Her husband is a good 2 inches taller than she is. It took us a good hour to reach the cabin. We can also use a single word before a quantity when we make an estimate. Check out these examples with about and around. I'm almost done with the book. I have about 5 more pages to go. The grocery store was crazy. There were around 10 people ahead of me in the checkout lane. Some is a word people play around with when they make an estimate. You may hear some directly before a number or even after it to make a hyphenated word. Some 30 people showed up for the party. 30-some people showed up for the party. You'll see similar use of something when we talk about people's ages or prices. I'm not exactly sure how old he is, but he's young. He's 20-something. And someone who is in their 20s might say, when I'm 30-something, I'll think about buying a house. The restaurant isn't too expensive. I paid 50-something for our 2 meals. Let's end with a fun expression. This one makes use of an if clause. Perhaps you've watched some of my lessons on conditionals in English. If you have, then you know there are plenty of conversational expressions with if. Here's one we use when we talk about people's ages. If he's a day, or if she's a day. This means the person must be at least this old. Check out this example. I don't know how old Kelly is exactly, but she's not a little girl anymore. She's 16 if she's a day. Here's a practice task you can do in the comments. I'll try to offer corrections as time allows, but you can also help one another. Choose one of the new quantifying expressions and create your own example. Now, some are more common than others. Give or take, more or less, are very common. If she's a day, a little less, but still worth knowing. I look forward to reading your examples. That's all for now. If you found these expressions useful, please give this video a thumbs up. I'd love to see at least 100-some likes on this video. As always, thanks for watching and happy studies.
Remember to join me on Twitter for vocabulary practice. I'm there Monday through Friday. And if you follow me on Facebook, you can try different language tasks throughout the week.